Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? It's I used to go at Newport College Church, and Newport College Church has two services. One is contemporary, one is contemporary. And contemporary, one is that's right. A contemporary service is like where Jesus is usually not so much, and the conservative, that's where Jesus is. And so I used to do this, I was like, let me get a double blessing, and go to early morning, which is conservative, and sing hymnals, because that helps your salvation, by the way, if you did not know that part, all right? And then I was like, I'm going to contemporary service later. I'm just judging you right now, and I just want to see how many of you went to the early morning service there? Yeah? Nobody? Okay, that's right. I'm not so sure about you. So good to be back at one place. It is so good to be here because I was here last year, first time preach. Anybody maybe remember sermon? Yeah. Which one? Superheroes. Well done, dude. That's right. I love superheroes, but that was a good sermon. This is not so. All right. So this might be my last time here. Today I'm speaking on the title. It is living in a promise or living in a prison. And we're going to go through that because I think it's very important. And it's also very much a part of the Genesis story of the beginnings. I was supposed to be preaching on the topic of Sodom and Gomorrah, which is a just beautiful topic, isn't it? Adventists love Sodom and Gomorrah because those who deserve, they burn. Is that right? That's right. Like, yeah. If you don't burn, you'll turn into rock. Yeah, that's right. But I made a mistake, and I chose just a few chapters earlier before that. So somebody else is going to preach on that. I'm preaching on different stuff, by the way. Nevertheless, just a few weeks ago, maybe even a month ago, I was walking through a Watford town centre where I live in England, and it was Saturday evening. We don't have too many places for milkshakes like you guys. You have like a milkshake everywhere. It's like, so we had to travel for the milkshake. And so we came to town center, finished drinking milkshake, and as I was walking outside, Saturday evening, Saturday night in Watford is just not good, all right? It just doesn't, it looks like Sodom and Gomorrah. Absolutely. So me, youth pastor, let me judge somebody. I'm walking with a few of my young people, and I'm like, this is Sodom and Gomorrah. As I said this, somebody shouted from the club, Dejan! And it was not even Dejan, as the English call me, or Dejan Mustard, or DJ, or Dujan. It was like proper pronunciation of my name. And this is the moment when the pastor has to decide, do I ignore the voice? Because I'm walking with young people here, and somebody is calling me from the club where the Sodom and Gomorrah is. And I was like, oh, no, that's not me. And that person shouted, like, Dejan! And I'm like, that's me, man. And I stop and I look, and there is somebody really who knows me in that club. I had to go inside. I was judged by young people. It was good. So guys, this morning we're going to be talking about living in a prison or living in a promise. If you remember me a few last weeks going through Genesis, you see that there are a lot of promises. And Abraham was promised a child. Do you remember that part? And the story of a promise is... Are you leaving already? Yes, I'm leaving. Dude, I just said the first sentence of my sermon, and he just left. Can you please don't tell that to Japhet, all right? He will never invite me back again. He's like, people leave in your first sentence, man. I don't know how many times in your life you heard this. I tried church, I tried reading Bible, I tried praying, and I just don't feel it. I just don't feel it. And when we hear this sentence in our lives, I heard that sentence, I sometimes even said this sentence. We go into this what we know is a spiritual depression, and we are like feeling that God is actually not there. Not only He's not there, He doesn't even care for us. And then when we go to that, our mind takes us really far away. But you remember the moments when you experienced God in your life, when somebody was healed, when He actually delivered you from a big problem, when He was there, and then in that moment in your life, you're like super Christian. You're on the top of the mountain, and you can shout Jesus' name all day long, for He is live, and you can feel Him in your life. It happened to me so many times in my life that I would come to that place where I could not feel Jesus. I couldn't feel anything, and I would just go down so deep. And then what we do is exactly what we do. Our minds are just like, they just go crazy about this. They just go crazy for the very simple reason because we simply cannot find anything about him or anything good about him at that stage. So today I would like to talk about living in a promise of God or living in your emotional prison, which, by the way, you build and I build myself. And today I actually know some people, including myself, that lived that prison for a very, very long time, and then we had to get out. So let me just read the first scripture for today. It's in Genesis chapter 15, verses 4 to 5. I'm going to read it. So it says, "Then the word of the Lord came to him. This man will not be your heir, but a son coming from your own blood will be your own heir. He took him outside and said, 'Look up at the heavens and count the stars. If indeed you can count them.' Then he said to him, 'So you shall, your offspring shall be.'" God takes Abraham outside of his little life. I'm not sure if you noticed this. God actually takes people on a walk. I hate those walks, by the way. Oh, my word. My wife's like, "Let's go walk." I don't like to walk. I'm fat, leave me alone. I have flat feet. Flat feet, not good. And I was out every single time. My mom and my dad were like, "Let's go walk." God is taking us for walks. Thank you so much for coming back. I feel much better now. He came back. Can you just stick him? Good. And as he came back, Jesus came and he said, like, "Let's have a walk." And Abraham, if you just look how old he is a pensioner. If you live in England, maybe you should live in England as a pensioner. When you turn 65 in England, you get a free bus pass. So other buses are occupied by pensioners. So you need to see them. They're like a gangs. There's a little bus stop, and it's just all pensioners. And when the door opens, they all jump on it. And they just go, because they have free bus passes. You see, Abraham, he has a free bus pass. He is supposed to do something interesting with his life, but he wants a child. He's like, "Dude, I want a child. When I turn age like him, I'm going to be collecting stamps. And then I'm going to find other pensioners, and I'm going to swap my stamps with them. Would you like the blue one? That's 2 stamps. That's right. I would find something interesting in my life, maybe collecting fridge magnets or something like this. But this man received the promise from God, and God said to him, "Listen, I'm going to give you a child. I'm going to give you a child, but you have to wait a little bit. You just have to wait a little bit." And now we have this man, Abraham, who lives in a promise. But this promise doesn't happen straight away. When I want something, when my wife promised me something, she said, "I'm going to buy this camera." I talk about this camera all the time. I talked about so much that camera that she has to buy it earlier because I'm so annoying. I'm like, "Do you know how beautiful is that black camera? So beautiful. Do you know it has a 20 megapixels? I love 20 megapixels." She says, "It's all right. You get your camera." And so I would just do that all the time. And you can just imagine this guy. God actually promised him a child, and now weeks turn into, days turn into weeks, week into months, months into years. Now it's like 10 years, and there is no promise. And this is maybe the hardest place for you and for me to be, in the silence of God. Because we hate waiting. I drive every single day to Anderson University. On the way here, I see about 70 fast food restaurants. Because you hate waiting. I hate waiting. I saw you on a 4-way stop. You cheat. You do not stop. He says, "Stop." No, you don't stop. Well, do you know what you do? Because I'm driving with that, with Steve. Steve, he comes to that, and then he starts reading between the lines. Maybe I should stop a little bit. And then what he does, he just touches the brake. My head goes forward. That's what I. My guy goes forward, and then he presses it, and then my head goes backwards. Every single time I see 4-way stop, I'm thinking, "Stop cheating, man. Stop cheating." You need to get roundabouts. Then your head goes around. It's fine. It's good. Because you hate waiting. You just hate waiting. You think it's a waste of time stopping at that stop because simply, you know what? Maybe that doesn't mean that. Because in the times of the silence of God, you and me, what we do is we read between the lines. And we read between the lines so well. When you go into that little bit darker place, when the God voice cannot be heard, and when you don't know what's going to happen next, you start reading between the lines. And the text goes further on and reads exactly the same things. He says, now Sarah, Abraham's wife, had borne him no children, but she had Egyptian maidservant named Hagar. So she said to Abram, the Lord has kept me from having children. Go sleep with my maidservant. Perhaps I can build family through her. And this is what happens. Sarah comes with the best plan. Anybody here had the best plan? Put a hand up. I just want to see how many of you. Okay? Okay, let's do this again. Let's not lie each other, right? Because I know majority, if not all, who had the best plan. Yeah? Let me just say, yeah, that's right, majority. We would all say we have the best plan. That's right. Sarah comes to Abraham, is like, I have a best plan. And anybody reading these texts, you know, in the red flag, like flag, it's like, no, this is not good plan, not good plan. But Sarah is like, no, I have a good plan, the best plan. So many times in my life I had the best plan. It didn't turn to be the best in the end. How many of you are from California? That's just okay. I can take you on. All right, sure. I was dean at Newport College. And when you're dean, you are in charge of one corridor. And my corridor was full of guys from California. All of them. You know that that's a health and safety issue already. Is that right? That's right. I knew that. I told to my boss, I said, listen, man, don't give me all people from California, all right? He's like, no. You're the only one who can handle this. They all came. They moved in. I said to listen, guys, I'm going to make rules very simple to you, this, that. They said about 3, 4 rules. And one of the rules was this: you have to go sleep 11 o'clock. You know, at least close the doors and don't make noise. But you know, like you just saw this few seconds ago, when the moment I said Californians, they all did that sound, whatever it is. They're like, oh. Okay. So they were they just couldn't do that. So 11 o'clock at night, you know, I'm going to sleep. I had 5 jobs. I had 5 part-time jobs. I would get up 5 o'clock in the morning and end up who knows when, 62 hours a week. 11 o'clock, I hear, you know, they bring soccer ball, which is very interesting, Americans, but nevertheless, you're good in football now, much better. That was the beginning of Americans playing football. And so they would throw the ball, and then they would start kicking the ball, and you can just imagine the small corridor, the ball bouncing around. You know, there is no way you can sleep. I open the door, and I say, hey, it's 11 o'clock. It's time to go to sleep. And there was this small guy called Chris Lazar. Anybody knows him? You know Chris? No? They're good. In the first service, everybody knew Chris. So now Chris is going to know I told a story about him. And after that, you know, after this story this morning, parents came to me and they said, well, my son was with you in that corridor. And that was not good, by the way. And so what happened is Chris says, no problem at all. We're going to go sleep. But they wouldn't go to sleep. Californians, they would play football like 2 o'clock in the morning. The balls was bouncing around, and I just couldn't deal anymore. Day after day, I was begging, please go sleep. Please go sleep. And they didn't listen to me. So what I decided to do is teach them a lesson. The only way they'll understand. And I went to the gadget shop. And as I walked in the gadget shop, on the wall, there was a shotgun with the rubber bullets. Let me just tell you before I tell you this. In Britain, you can't buy weapons, you know. Not even police has them. So you can just buy toys. So I said, excuse me, would you be able to shoot me with that toy so I can see, should I buy it? He looks at me, he says, well, I can't shoot you because you're a customer. I said, if you don't shoot me, I'm not going to buy it. He says, no problem at all. He takes the shotgun from the wall, puts the rubber bullet inside, and then he does this. And as he does this, I can hear the spring inside is really strong. I said, just give me a second. I would like to move further on. And then, you know, he's like, he's aiming me while I'm preparing for the pin. I'm like, ooh. And then he pulls it. As he shoots me in my back, I'm like, ah! I'm like a little girl. That's right. I go back to him. I said, give me the shotgun and give me 300 bullets. You know, I have the best plan. That's right. I have the best plan. So I take this. He says, well, I have no 300 bullets. I have about 50. He said, give me everything. Everything. So I packed the bag, a beautiful bag. Nobody knows. I just bought a shotgun, by the way, with the rubber bullets. I sneak into my room. 15 minutes to 11, I come out. Californians coming out with a soccer ball, and they start kicking the ball. I come out and say, listen, you have 15 minutes to play this game. And then I'm going to shoot you all. Chris Lazar said, yeah, and continued playing the football. I went into my room, I put the 5 bullets in my shotgun, that's how much I was able. I had 10 more in pocket. I stood in front of my flag and I sang a hymn. My watch then said, 11 o'clock. I opened the door. And what I see, they put goalie on my door. It's like, not only they wanted to play football, they wanted to annoy me. So everybody was kicking on a goal towards my door. So as I open the door, I can see him standing here. Everybody else can see me, but he can't see me. So what I did is, boom! In this moment, the goalie starts running like a chicken. And he started shouting, he shot me! He shot me! And I was like, yes, I did. And then I was like, boom, boom. And they all ran and hid themselves. How can Chris Lazar, he managed to run into his room and he locked himself in. I knocked on his door. I said, Chris, open the door. Chris said, I don't want you. I said, Chris, open the door. I don't want you. You're going to shoot me. I said, that is correct, Chris. Open the door. Chris said to me, I don't want to. I said, Chris, I'm your dean. I have the key of your room. I unlocked the door. I shot him in his room and locked the door. I thought I have the best plan. You know, Californians, they don't stay defeated. They all went and bought the shotguns and weapons tomorrow. I couldn't get to my room for months after that. Mom and Dad this morning came to me and they said, my son was caught, and I think you shot him as well. I was like, oh yes, I did, twice, that's right. So many times in my life, I think I have the best plan. Sarah thinks she has the best plan. She's like, you know what? You just go sleep with somebody else, and I'm gonna build the family through that person. I'm thinking the massive red flag is saying, well, that's not the best plan. That's not the best plan. But she can't wait. And because she can't wait, she reads between the lines. Do you know what she's saying? She's saying, maybe I've done something in my life which is making God to keep the promise away from me. She's thinking, maybe God forgotten me and I will not receive this promise. Maybe she's thinking, maybe my sin is making this bridge between us, so I'm not receiving what I am supposed to receive. The biggest problem for all of us is when we start comparing our abilities with God's abilities. And then we look at God, and when we think, if we can't do it, He can't do it. And then you're thinking, and do you think this? You're thinking that God can't deliver you from the sin you're struggling with. That God can deliver you from the problems you have in your life. You think that God can't fix your marriage, that God can't take you out of addiction, that God can't take you away from that alcohol or whatever it is. You think that God can't do this because you cannot do that for yourself. I'm in the same place every single day of my life. How many times I have to take God out of that box because He can't be there. He can do what I and you cannot. My friends, the question for all of us this morning is very simple. Are you going to live in the promise of God which He has for you? Or are you going to live in this emotional prison which you will create for yourself? Because when something bad happens in your life, emotions are the worst place to go. The worst place to go. For those emotions take you so far from everything, they take you far away from you and so far away from God. For you think these things, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. When we pray and we don't get answer, we feel that this is something that is broken between us. You see, my friends, this morning in chapter 16, verse 3 to 5, so Abraham had been living in Canaan for a long time, 10 years. Sarah, his wife, took her Egyptian maidservant Hagar and gave it to her husband, the text says. And then in verse 4, he slept with her, and she was pregnant. And this moment we will find this terrible, terrible, terrible thing. And that is that the best idea which Sarah had backfired back in her face. What happened was very simple. She said, you go sleep with her. Everything is going to be fine because I will build a family. And God said, no, I'll give you a child, but you just have to wait. And she says, no, I have a better idea. Let me do this. And what happened when you have the best idea and I have a best idea? and we don't listen for and wait for God, it just backfires. And now we have this family, which was a family of love, respect, and everything good. We have now this domestic issue. We have a hate, and we have all these problems. For Sarah can't love Hagar anymore, and what she does in the text says that she explodes and she mistreats her. And this is, by the way, the first case of domestic violence in the Bible. She obviously attacks her, so Hagar takes the child and she runs away. For the best idea which you have for God and I have for God might not be the best idea at all. But God has a promise. So where are you going to be? Are you going to be living in the promise of God? Or are you going to be living in the prison, emotional prison which you made for yourself? You know, as Genesis 16:6, we said, what a straight answer Abraham has. He fires back and he says, listen, the servant is in your hands, and what happened here happened with your blessing. You see, my friends, the best idea in God's eyes might be nothing else than walking away from the promise he has for you today. And then we go to this text. We find this text in chapter 16, verses 15 to 17. He says, so Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abraham gave him the name Ishmael to the son she had born. And Abraham was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael. And in chapter 17, we find in verse text, it says, when Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, I am God Almighty, walk before me and be blameless. I will confirm my covenant towards you. He is in chapter 16, and between chapter 17, there is 13 years of waiting for the promise to be delivered. And after this, after this waiting, God actually does deliver what he promised, and he shows to him, he says, you know what, you will get your son. And we find in the verse Genesis 21, and he receives the son in his life. You see, my friends, you and me have to make decisions today, as we are making decisions every single day, and that is, are we going to live in the promises of God, or we are going to live in emotional prison, which you and me will create for ourselves? And do you know what? I'm a pastor's son. I had to learn this a very hard way. I'm going to finish this message here this morning with this story. I was at Newport College. I was a student who had to learn school. I went to School of English first. I didn't speak English whatsoever, pretty much. I just knew to say, I'm hungry. And then toilet, that was number 2. It was very important. I love food. But if you love food, you need toilet as well. I went to School of English, and in the School of English, I struggled. I struggled so badly. I actually hate the School of English. Do you know why? Because I'm Serbian, and Serbian people, we have issues, and issues of this. If we feel that something is on our way, we usually run over that thing. If there is somebody, we just run them over. That's right. And I felt the School of English was between me and studying theology, for I wanted to serve as my dad served, because he was a good man, and he was an amazing pastor. And I felt School of English was keeping me away from this. You know what? I struggled so badly. You don't even know, man. I would learn English, and I would pass all my exams, and then it was just so hard. And then one moment when I passed all my exams, my friend comes to me and she says to me, Dejan, when is your visa expiring for England? And I knew my visa was expiring in 2 weeks' time. So I said, my visa is expiring in 2 weeks' time. I prepared all my papers. I'm just about, to just start it up and then go to the Home Office. That's where you extend your visas. And then she said, Dejan, why don't you bring your passport? So I went and brought my passport. As I brought my passport, and I opened the passport, we saw that my visa was expiring today in about 17 minutes' time. My friend was quite funny. She said, let's watch it together how it expires. And I was so angry. For I just passed School of English, the thing I really didn't want to do. And I was just about to study theology and truly do what I want to do in my life. And God was taking this away from me. I was like, God, what's happening with this? What about your promises? And then what I did is exactly what you and me do in the bad situations. We just go this emotional prison, and we just can't see anything good in this. I called my mom, good pastor's wife, and I said, Mom, my visa just expired. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go tomorrow to Home Office, and I'm going to try to extend my visa. And Mom said this. She says, do not worry, my son. God promised that He will deliver us in these type of situations. And I told my mom, I go, okay? She says, I'll pray, and it's going to be all right. And what I did is, I did everything possible I could. I went to prepare my papers, and then I started practicing my answers, because when they ask me, why are you late, you have to have a really good reason, or they will deport you out of the country. So I'm there practicing. So, sir, why are you late? Because my kitty died. And my washing machine broke down. And TV. And I was trying to get all these good reasons. And they were not true. What I was trying to do is I was trying to find myself way out of this. I was trying to live the promise of God without God in it. I was trying to go and get there if I can get there without Him, and I couldn't get there. And you know what? 2 o'clock in the morning, I sat in the car, my friend took me. He took me to the Home Office, and 2 o'clock in the morning, I came to Home Office, and you would think, I would be the first in the queue. Is that right? Nobody waits 2 o'clock in the morning in front of Home Office. That's a lie. There was about 15 Koreans, which was in front of me. Korean people, they don't mess around, man. I was like, I came to them, I said, they had even tents. I said, the camping ground is across the road. But they did not find that very funny. Plus, they know martial arts, and you don't mess around with them. You just be in front of me, that's fine, don't worry. Half an hour later, Australian man comes. And he comes to me, he says, what are you doing here? I said, I like to stand in a queue. And he said, no, man, what are you here? I said, man, my visa expired in midnight tonight, kind of story. And he says this to me, he says, you need to leave, because they will arrest you on the door, and they'll put you in a plane, and they will deport you out of England. He says, my Australian friend came, and British Australians like this. Serbian people and British people, they're not like that. Okay. And I was there. You know what? At 8 o'clock morning when they opened, there were 600 people in the queue. I was standing there, and the British policeman comes out, and this is the only place where they'll carry weapons, by the way. And the British policeman, he looks like a professional killer, like him. And no, sorry, but he's shaved head, straight face, a big guy, muscles, he carries this machine gun. He comes through the door, and I'm like, that's not good. Does he know how to use that thing? Because, if the British police don't use the weapons, you just always wonder about these things. And then, 8 o'clock in the morning, you can just see this. British policeman tries to crack the joke. British are not funny, generally, ever. Especially not 8 o'clock in the morning in front of the Home Office. Yeah, he comes and he cracks the joke, and nobody laughs. There's 600 of us, and we're like, what? And then I realized, no, you should laugh because he has a machine gun, and it's no good. I was like, that's a good one. That was it. I came today, they came to me, and they said, can you show us the papers? I showed them the papers, and that's the first point. That's where they catch you. And they take my passport away, and they take everything away from me. I have all the answers ready. And this lady looks at me, and she says, what are you doing in this country? I said, I just finished School of English. I would like to be a pastor. I'm here to prolong my visa. And this lady from Caribbean, she looks at me, and she says this, we need more pastors in this country. And I'm like, yes, we do. Yes, we do. And then she turns to this Caucasian guy next to her, points the finger, she says, he needs Jesus in his life. And I'm like, trying not to be deported by him now. I'm like, I'm sure he does. She doesn't look anything. She's so happy that I want to be a pastor. She pushes the paper through that hole. I take the papers, and she says, go to the second floor. I went and paid this, and when I got to the second floor, I was number 172. I was wondering, were there more Koreans inside? I'm not sure. It's quite funny to watch you developing the laugh. I came there and I sat down, and when you walk in a Home Office, and I hope God doesn't give you that opportunity. He's like, you sit on this metal bench, So cold, so uncomfortable. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, these British do not want me to be here. Because, the benches are so cold that even if you receive your visa, you're very likely that you will die from pneumonia or something like this. It was so uncomfortable. And after hours of waiting, my number comes up. And I'm ready. I'm ready. She calls my name, I come and I sit in front of the window. As I come there, they have this thick glass like this. I don't know why. And there was a panic button in front of the glass. And I was thinking, the panic button should be on my side. I'm panicking. And you look very calm to me. It was a, blast-proof, bulletproof glass. And I sat there, as I was sitting there, I was thinking, if she's, I imagine her when she opens my passport and sees my visa expire. I saw her, she would stand up and she would hit the red button like this. And as she does that, my chair would just open and I would just go directly into airplane and then I was so scared. But I was ready. I had all the answers. Ready. Why are you late? Because of this. Why is this? Because of that. I was so ready. And then she said, give me your papers, and I pushed all the papers on there, and she opened these papers, she opened my passport, and I now know, she knows I'm illegal in this country. And she looks at me, and she doesn't say anything. She stands up and she walks away. I'm like, that's not good. She's going to bring friends. She goes, and she's there for half an hour. I don't know what she's doing. I'm thinking, woman, you need to ask me questions. Because I know that women ask a lot of questions. And I would like you to ask me so I can defend myself. But she comes back and she types on the computer for the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and she doesn't ask me any questions. I'm there thinking, I'm sweating. I'm like, just please ask me one question. I have all the questions ready. I was there for 40 minutes. She hasn't asked me one question. She pushed the papers back to the hole and she said, goodbye, sir. I looked at her. I said, what do you mean? What do you mean, goodbye? Am I going to Serbia? I didn't say that. But you don't stand there for too long. I took my papers, and I walked away from her like from Chinese emperor. I did not know what happened. I was carrying my papers, I was walking away. There was a policeman coming towards me. I made this. I didn't know what happened. I know she said goodbye, but what goodbye means? I came out. I sat on this massive concrete barrier for terrorist attacks. And I was standing there, sitting actually on that, and I opened my passport and I saw it was a surprise. It was 2 years visa in that passport. And I called my mom. I said, Mom, you're right. Your promises, they're true. God delivers. He delivered me today. And then I realized that I'm the biggest problem in this relationship. For I live in emotional prison which I built for myself. Well, I can live on His promises today. Your call is very important. For you will walk away from the one place today and you will be very clear about this. I will live in my prison, or I will live with Jesus in the promise which He has for me. The decision is yours. I wish I can tell you which one to take, but you will have to do that for yourself. May God bless you in your decisions today. Amen.